Hi. Now I have started Vagrant script in order to see the action while I'm talking about this new video. So this time I will install MongoDB in 3 Virtualboxes with Vagrant, and now Vagrant, it's on the first node. This is the Vagrant script. It's configuring 3 nodes, and for each node it's running the provision shell script. This is a provision shell script. So first of all we have to see if we are passing over the node 1. So we've passed the node 1. I can try to connect. So we can see that node 1 is running. I'm going to SSH on node 1. And as you can see, MongoDB process is started. Now the Vagrant script is installing MongoDB on node 2, passed over node 2. As you can see, entered else of if, no replication set up yet. Let me talk about this. So in the provision shell script, if it's the third node, on the third node we have shell arguments define replication. On the first 2 nodes there is no shell arguments, only on the third node. On CentOS 8 Mongo 3 node, it's replication. It's a defined replication in order to start replication setup. So now we are on the third node, and on the third node we have MongoDB primary secondary replication is initialized, and we have echo complete. So when we are in the third node, in the script we have this echo, meaning if the script received the parameter define replication, then it's starting to set up MongoDB replication with 3 nodes. One is primary and the other 2 are secondary. These are the IPs which are set up in the Vagrant file, 12, 13 and 14 on the default MongoDB port. So first of all, on on each VirtualBox, the provision script, it's setting up a MongoDB repo, and it's disabling Linux, and it's installing MongoDB. Afterwards, MongoDB installation, it's installing a MongoDB K file, which is needed for the replication. On this Mongo K file, you can put a simple password, or in my case, I put a simple password, but if you want to make password more complicated, you can use OpenSSL in order to generate a more complex password, basically to create a real key file. Also, on this key file, we have to change the owner and the mode of the file, and also on each MongoDB instance, we have to create a MongoDB configuration, basically to set up, to define a log file, to define where the MongoDB data, to define MongoDB path, database path, PID file location, also port and IP, on which IP MongoDB is listening. With 0000, MongoDB it's listening on all the IPs. So MongoDB is not binded to only one IP. Also, security. On security, as you can see, we put the key file which was generated previously in the script. And the replication variable, it's called rs0, the replication parameter. It's also put in the config file. And after config file is created, the script is starting MongoDB. This part is done for all the 3 instances, and only for the third one, after the third MongoDB instance, it started the script. It's also defining the replication. So it's starting the Mongo client, which is connecting to the admin database, and it's running these commands, meaning use admin. Basically, it's creating admin database, and then it's initiating the relation between the instances. One of these 3, it's primary, and the other 2 are secondary. And after the initialization, then we are using another connection to the admin database, and this time we are creating administrator user, which has the role to admin any database, also to read and write to any database. And afterwards we create a root user, which is the super user, which has all the rights as in MySQL. I'm creating an owner user, which is a DB owner. DB owner can read and write. Also, I'm creating a new database. In this database, I will create a new collection. Collection for MongoDB means a table. So first of all, a new database, and afterwards a new collection. In order to create a new collection, I have to insert something in the new collection. And I'm creating a new user which has read-write permission on this new database. This new database only for this new database. I'm creating a read-write user, and also for this new database. Afterwards, I'm creating one user who has only read role. So this is where the connection to Mongo was created. And these users were created. So now I'm going to connect to the first. Also, I'm connected. And in this let me connect to the new database on the if I'm not putting the password, it's asking me for password. I'm selecting the other command, which has also the password in the command line. Let me connect with administrator. No, with root. -u root. Root pass. secondary. Let me connect on the second one. Node 1, this is node 2. The second node also it's secondary. Node 3. And node 3 is the primary. So I've entered into the Mongo client without any kind of passwords, and I'm checking if the root user was created. Use admin. I'm not authorized to show users because I didn't do any kind of login. Now I'm going to see which user was created. I hope at least one. Administrator and password. Let me check this. Failed. administrator it's not okay. Root. And root pass. Oh. So let me create him once again. So this means that there was some errors in the script which created the users. Couldn't add user, couldn't add the user, not master. So when the third node was created and I tried to create administrator and root users, at that time node 3 wasn't yet master. So probably the sleep should be longer in order that a master should rise, and after the master it's set up, the user creation has to be done on the master node. So I'm going to recreate all the users. I've already created in node 3. I've created the root user on node 3, and then I'm going to create also the administrator. Now I have authentication with root. I'm trying once again. To create the administrator user. Now show users says that the administrator user with user admin any database and read write any database. It's created. Also the admin user root. It's created. So in the primary we have the root. Now I'm trying to connect with root. In the secondary, I'm connecting with root. Oh, I'm already connected. So I've connected to the secondary. So I'm going to show the users on another node. By default, on the secondary nodes, we can't do anything until we set some slave OK. Let me put slave OK. So this slave OK means that we can query also the secondary. So these are the users in the admin database. So from the node 3, where is the primary node, in this node I've created those two users, and then I've connected to node number 1. I've selected the admin database, and when I show the users, are the users in the node 3 secondary are the users that were introduced in in the primary node, which is the number 3. So the users went from the primary to one secondary. Let me check. Let me check also on the node secondary node 2. In this node, I'm going to create one more user. Let me create a new database. First of all, let's show the databases in primary. So these are only the default databases, admin, config, and local. So with this command, I'm going to create a new database. As long as I didn't inserted a value in the database doesn't show up. So let me insert something. DB command shows me in which database I'm working, and I'm adding a new collection. A collection in MongoDB means a table in the SQL databases. So with one command, I'm creating a new collection and a new table, and also I'm inserting one row in the new table. And now, if I'm checking the databases, now the new database appears on the database list. And now let me check the database status. So this is the new database. Let me create one user. I've created a read-write user, a W user which has role read-write, and I've added the new user. This new user, it's only for the new database. So for the new database, it's only the read-write user. Let me create only a read-only user for the same database. Now the show users says that I have one read role and one read-write role. In this moment we have overall 4 users. One administrator, one root, one read, and one read-write. Let me display the tables. So we are in the new database. Let's show the tables in the new database. There is only one table called new collection. Let's display the data in the new collection. So I have to correct this script I guess there are errors because I've left some space. As you can see, when I've entered the commands, all the commands are entered without the space, and I guess that's why. Also, there was no master when the script, the provision script was trying to create the users and the new database. Now I've created the users and the new database. Let me check. I want to connect in the second node. I want to connect on the new database with a read write. Read write user on the new database. So this read write user has no right to show the databases. Let me check if has the right to display data from the table. I have to put slave OK in order to select data from slave. Now I can see also in the secondary that the database was created, and the data that was inserted in the primary. This is where I've inserted some key and some value. In the primary, this data was propagated, was sent also to this secondary, to the second node secondary. Let me check the first node secondary. Show DBs, use new database. Let me carry DB new collection find to see that the data is also on the other secondary. So some key and some value was send from the primary to both secondaries nodes. And let me try to add some data. So in secondary, I'm with read-write user. And it says that I'm not master, so only on the master data can be inserted. Let me exit from the master. And let me connect with read-only user. And I want to try to insert data with read-only user. So let me connect with reader, credentials. So I'm connecting with reader, credentials to the new database. I'm connected, and I want to insert new data in the primary. And says that I'm not authorized to insert. Why I'm not authorized? Because I've entered with reader user. Let me log out from new database and let me try to connect with read-write. Read-write. Now I'm connected into a new database, and now I'm trying to order key, order value. So I've inserted new data. Let me display the new data. Now in the new collection table we have some key and other key, some value and other value. Let me display this in the two secondaries. So the new data appeared on the secondary, and let me check also the first secondary. So the new data which was inserted in the primary was synchronized on both secondary nodes, on both secondary Virtualboxes. So it worked. Let me review the background file. So in the background file, has created the CentOS Linux box with this IP 12, and after the virtual machine was created, was launched provision shell script without parameters, and afterwards was created another CentOS box called CentOS 8 Mongo 2 with IP 13. Also, after the second node, the second virtual machine was up and running, the provision shell script was launched again without arguments, and the background file, the last node, also CentOS 8, the Mongo node 3, which has 14 IP. Also, the provision shell script this time was launched with arguments define replication. So the replication was defined on the third node, and that's why the primary was in the third node. And the provision shell script, it's creating a Mongo repository, is disabling Linux, it's installing and enabling MongoDB, creating a key file for security in the replication, and then MongoDB configuration file. And only for the third node, when the replication is defined as a parameter, it's starting, it's initiating the replication. The second part with user creation, it's not okay, because the users are not creating because there is not yet primary defined. So the users I've created manually, and you saw the data that was users and data that was inserted into the primary node was replicated in the two secondary nodes. So basically, this is what I wanted to show. Now let me try this graphical user interface. Let me check if I can connect. Yes, it seems that I can connect. So we have here the new database, the collection, the new table, and these are the documents that I've inserted some value, some key, and other key, and other value. So also the graphical user interface, it's working. Graphical user interface is called Robo3D. Basically, this is what I wanted to show in this video. Thank you very much for your time.